My name is Mei Qi Xu. I came from the China mainland. I'm probably the first employee hired in the FOP lab.
Mei Qi had become good at DNA sequencing analysis.
Every single experiment, every moment I'm is in the lab, thinking about how to discover FOP gene. If I could is one day to help the lab to find is the cause, that will be, it's my career goal.
We began to look at ACVR1 as a primary candidate gene.
Now, ACVR1 at that point was not a gene that had been characterized in any way functionally, but it was known to be part of the bone morphogenic protein pathway, which people presumed to be the pathway involved in FOP because it's the main pathway driving bone formation.
Every time we start a new gene, we keep finger crossed, hope this is the gene.
What we needed to do was to do DNA sequencing across the ACVR1 gene and look to see if we could identify genetic differences. So Mei Qi, these are the original DNA sequencing electroparograms?
Yeah, so when first time I screened is ACVR1, as Fred mentioned, this is the very important gene we should take a look. So I screened a couple of family. When I first see this is the peak change, I'm not really sure this is the gene. So I just say, okay, let me screen one more as a family member. I did one more. Hey, this is the patient also have the same overlapped peak at the same position.
All our cells have 2 copies of each gene. If the sequence is identical on the 2 copies of the gene, we get single color peaks. But if we get to a section or a portion of the gene where there's a difference in one gene copy and the other gene copy, then we see this double peak where we see an overlap.
Every single patient in the multi-generational families who had FOP had the same exact mutation in that gene.
At that moment, I just say, did I find this one is real or maybe mistake? So I went to the Eileen office. Not very exciting, but I just knocked the door. Gently I say, hi Eileen, I have something want to talk to you.
See, and it's funny, Mei Qi, because I remember you came into my office and you said, Eileen, I found the gene. and I said, Mei Qi, we got to go do more sequencing. I had her go back to the lab, look at additional patients, both from families and from what we call sporadic or single cases of FOP. And again, she comes back and, the same nucleotide change holds.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Every time I look at it, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Hearing from Fred and Eileen that the sequencing had confirmed that ACVR1 was the actual causative gene was an absolutely huge, momentous moment for us. Emotional, yes. Also just scientifically phenomenally exciting because it explains so much about the disease. Also, I guess I'd have to say, a huge relief that my linkage mapping had actually been correct. I think if it had turned out if the gene that was involved was on the chromosome 4 locus, I never would have been able to look people in the face again. But a combination of relief, excitement, and just for the FOP community, a just huge sense of hope for the future, that this meant that there was going to be diagnostic tests, but more importantly, a route to actually a logical treatment.
It was as though all these sort of celestial bodies had come into a correct orbit and had brought this together. So it was really a fantastic feeling that an international collaboration covering so many people had given so much hope to so many people.
It was incredible, and on Sunday, August 21st, I wrote this. A most remarkable afternoon, one I will never forget, waited years for. Sat there at a table with Mei Qi at the end of the hallway in the main corridor of the lab, reviewing the data, patient after patient, sequence after sequence, codon after codon, base pair after base pair, the same nucleotide in all. Everyone, without exception, a remarkable convergence on the double peak, arginine to histidine, one nucleotide in the protein coding region of ACVR1 in all the patients. There, in all the patients, absent in all the controls. Remarkable. So what is it doing? What is this mutation doing? These answers will come later, and of course, how to fix it? Question mark. We found the mutation in ACVR1 in every single individual who has FOP in the world.
I can't emphasize enough how unusual that is. It was always exactly the same nucleotide change, and that's extraordinarily unusual that the mutation would be so very specific.
And I said, do I call Jeannie first, or do I call Amanda first? And then I thought, if you're in Great Britain and you have an important discovery, an important announcement, an important finding, do you tell the Prime Minister first, or do you tell the Queen? And immediately I thought, you tell the Queen first. So I called Jeannie, and Jeannie was the first person to know. And about 10 minutes later, I called Amanda.
It was one misspelled letter, just one. It wasn't 3, it wasn't 2, it was 1. 1 out of 6 billion. 1. It was like a dream come true.